Hello, everyone, and welcome to Merlin's Manor for another Game Mechanics Monday. And the game mechanic that I would like to talk about today is the follow mechanic. Now, the follow mechanic, you have the active player chooses an action or activates something, and then others are able to choose to follow that action. Sometimes it's for a cost, and usually the active player is going to get a bonus or a better version of that action for choosing the action, and everybody else gets kind of a lesser version of that. Sometimes you'll have a simultaneous action selection where everybody's choosing an action at the same time and they reveal the action that they have chosen, and then the people that chose a certain action will get a bonus on top of everybody being able to do the actions that were chosen for that round. Now, one of the great benefits of this follow mechanic is that it oftentimes cuts down on downtime between turns, because you're going to be, at the very least, thinking about something you might want to do on other people's turns. They might do something and you'll decide to follow their action. So rather than you being kind of somewhat out of the game for everybody else's turn, just kind of thinking about what you want to do on your next turn, you get to see what they're doing and say, you know what, I want a piece of that. I'm going to go ahead and follow that action. Or sometimes you're just automatically going to be following actions in some games. And so that keeps that downtime between your turns, gets rid of that or lessens it a lot because you're being active in between turns. So now I'd like to talk about a few games that do this mechanic well. The first one I'm going to make mention of is Reavers of Midgard. In Reavers of Midgard, you are Vikings trying to get glory, which is basically victory points. And there's a bunch of different, it's a worker placement game. There's a bunch of different worker placement spots out there. In a two-player game, you're going to get to place 2 different times each round. In a 4-player game, you're going to do it once. In a 3-player game, one person is going to get an extra one, and everybody else is going to do it once. And it's going to kind of rotate there. And so you're going to choose a worker placement spot. Some of them cost something to be able to do. If it costs, you're going to pay, and you're going to get a better action. And then others can either choose to follow that action and pay the cost if there's a cost associated with it, and they're going to get a lesser version of that action, or they actually have the opportunity to rest, and instead of following, they rest and go ahead and either get 2 food, or they get to choose a die and select it to the face that they want to, and do that instead of following. And so it's got a little bit extra kind of there. It's not just choosing to follow, but you have a little option to do something else other than follow if you want to. And so Reavers of Midgard. The next game I want to bring up is Tiny Epic Galaxies. And I really love the way that this one has the follow mechanic in it. In this game, you are rolling dice, and then you are going to activate each dice that you roll one at a time. And when you choose to activate that dice that has different symbols for what they do, somebody can, any of the other players can then say, oh, I want to follow that action. You have a few seconds that you give them to decide if they want to follow the action before you move on to your next dice. But to follow an action, you actually have to spend a culture. So you have to have accumulated some culture, and then you have to decide, is it worth spending a culture in order to follow this action? And of course, if you run out of culture in between your turns, well, you can't follow anymore until it becomes your turn again, and hopefully you build up some more culture to be able to follow later on. And so I really enjoy the follow mechanic. Really is the star of this game, and so I really enjoy Tiny Epic Galaxies for that reason. The next one I want to bring up is Fort. And Fort is a deck building game that also has a follow mechanic. And I've got some cards here because this is how the follow mechanic works. Is you're going to play a card, and you're going to get to do both of these actions, the top and the bottom, if you want to. You can do one or the other or both. And then everyone else is able to do this top action here. And so that's the way the follow mechanic works in this game. And so you get double the amount of actions. And just to show you a few of the cards here, since I got them out. And this last one here is an example of one that actually doesn't have an ability to follow on it. Now, in order to actually follow the action, you have to discard a card that has the same symbol as in this corner right here in order to be able to follow the action. So there is a cost associated with following the action in the game Fort. The next game I want to talk about is Earth. Now, in Earth, you have your player board here, and at the top of the player board, you're going to choose one of these 4 actions at the top, you are going to do the top action, and then everybody else gets to do the bottom action, and then you activate these different colors in the middle as well. And so you're going to get a slightly stronger action here on the top, but everybody else gets to follow with a little bit of a weaker action there. And so that's another great example of a game that uses the follow mechanic. And the final one I want to bring up is Ares Expedition. Terraforming Mars, Ares Expedition. And this game is one of those simultaneous ones. As I was mentioning earlier, some do it this way. Race for the Galaxy is also like this. And so you have these different action cards, and you choose one of these cards on your turn. Everybody's going to choose them simultaneously. There's not actually a turn. You're all going to choose one, and then you all flip them over. And whatever gets chosen, let's say these 3 cards got chosen, maybe somebody duplicated one in a 4-player game. You're going to all do these ones in order, starting with 1, going through 5, and you've got this top action that everybody's going to do, and then you've got a bottom action here that if you were one of the ones that chose that action, you get to do the bottom action there as well. And they've gotten to where they also have these upgraded versions in the expansions that you can get even better bottom actions there for when you play those cards. And so this is an example of having that simultaneous action decisions where you all choosing at the same time what you're going to do, but then you get to piggyback off of the other cards that people chose to play the actions others chose there. And so these are some examples of games that do the follow mechanic well. And I hope you check some of these games out. I also have a video that I recently uploaded of a gameplay of Tiny Epic Galaxies. And you can go ahead and watch. It's a how to play / playthrough of that. You can check that out right here if you'd like to. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, I encourage you to do that as well. And I will catch you in the next video.